Today is the first ever Ohio's Praise with a live studio audience.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. Got it. There's Dante.
I set out a goal 2 years when I came back to bring a championship to the city. I gave everything that I had. I poured my heart, my blood, my sweat, my tears to this game, and Cleveland, this is for you. Oh.
Yeah, put some respect on a name, LeBron James, out here leading everyone and everything.
Welcome back to Ohio's Praise, and unfortunately we've got some bad news for you. If you haven't heard, the Buckeyes lost last week, which is not a huge shocker. I mean, they've lost before. What is the shocker, though, is who they lost to and how they lost. The Buckeyes played Iowa and lost by 31 points with a score of 55-24. And there's not a whole lot that I feel like we can say as like a group that will breaks down exactly like what the Buckeyes need to fix, because like when you lose by that much, there's just so much that could have went wrong and that like did go wrong. It starts with the turnovers, though, in my opinion. And JT did so well through most of the year, only throwing one pick, and then he turned the ball over 4 times this past game, which obviously you can't do, but it does not solely rest on JT's shoulders. While I was listening to the game, I was listening to the announcers, and they were talking about how when Ohio State played Oklahoma had a specific game plan, and that's what allowed them to beat us, and that happened to be taking advantage of the middle of the field with tight ends and running backs, and where our linebackers are typically responsible for that type of pass coverage. And it was noticeable that they struggled during the game. That, of course, those two things, of course, does not amount to 31 points. And Chris, what did you notice in the game?
Other than the turnovers, which was a big ratio of how we had 4 and they had none.
Didn't they have 28 points off the turnovers as well? So it means they
Yeah.
scored a touchdown every time we turned the ball over?
Yeah. Another huge part of the game that Ohio State has been struggling with all year has been penalties. They had 9 penalties for 95 yards, which is basically giving them a touchdown.
Yeah. That's a full length of the field.
Almost.
Almost.
I did some calculations before the show and found that Ohio State averages 8 penalties per game, averaging 77.2 yards given to the opponent. Something that I don't like, in my opinion. JT had almost half of the team's total rushes, and JT's good at running the ball, I'll say that, but I think he's better when he's scrambling, as the play wasn't designed for him.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times when we need a QB sneak or draw, just to get a couple yards, you know. JT's not the guy who's going to run you over. He's not juking you out. He's just a smart runner. He knows where to run, when to run. To me, it's kind of like a slap in the face to Dobbins and Weber. I think Dobbins had 6 carries all game.
Mm-hmm.
Weber had 4. So I mean, that doesn't.
Those two combined
Yeah.
is less than JT.
Yeah. So that's my opinion on it. I think JT should just worry about more of the passing game. That shouldn't rely on his shoulders to run the ball that much.
And granted, this again is not the sole factor that decided this game. It's not one thing when you lose by 31 points. It's a whole combination of things that all came to fruition. JT had a lot tougher game in terms of his passing efficiency. We talked a lot last week about his 4th quarter, which was phenomenal against Penn State. But this week he had a completion percentage of 53 and only threw 208 yards, which with 4 interceptions is a very well below average statistic. And then the defense managed to give up nearly 500 yards of offense, totaling in at 487 for Iowa. And Iowa's not a team that typically will run you out of town, but they really showed the Buckeyes what's up this past weekend. There's just so many things that I think could have gone wrong against Iowa, and I feel like all of them did.
Ohio State is now ranked 13th in the college football playoff committee rankings.
Yeah, there you go.
Words. They are set to play Michigan State this Saturday. in the shoe.
And it should be a deciding factor, or it'll be like a deciding game about which team will represent our portion of the Big Ten in the
Yep.
Big Ten championship.
The Cavs last night played the Milwaukee Bucks and beat them, shockingly, 124-119. Cavs have had their struggles all season. Right now they are currently 9th in the East as of after this game. I think it was after this game. Yeah,
It's not great.
Boston is 9-2 with the best record in the league right now, which is a little bit of a dagger to the heart.
It should be noted though that the Cavs beat them.
That's true.
They've beaten the Bucks twice. They beat the Wizards, and then one other team, the Bulls. Did they beat? Either way, the point is like the Cavs seem to show out against teams that are expected to be do well in the playoffs, like the
Yeah.
Bucks, the Wizards, and the Celtics. So what is the issue against teams like the Nets, the Magic, the Hawks, who up until when they played us had one win? What is the issue with the Cavs?
The Cavs right now are averaging 110 points per game, which is pretty solid.
Yeah.
But the Cavs also give up an average of 115 points per game, which is
Not solid.
kind of awful. Isaiah Thomas is out. I think I saw an update. He's supposed to come. Hopefully, he can come back in 6-ish weeks,
Yeah,
which is the projected time when he was supposed to come back.
And I've heard good things about his recovery. It
Yeah.
seems like he's progressing at a good rate. And talking about that, it kind of got me on the thought process of like, all right, his health and like all the things that seem to be like building up in Cleveland sports, like the Browns getting Josh Gordon back. It just seems like it's about to turn the corner. You know, like the Cavs are going to figure it out. The Browns might win a couple of games. Just things are going to start working out for Cleveland again. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cavs were 10, 15 games above 500 by Christmas time.
We talked about it last night. That's a very
It's
right now looking at the Cavs, it seems absurd.
yes, of course. But if I'd asked you this time or before the season started, would it be feasible for the Cavs to win 15 of 22 games? Would
Yeah.
you have said yes?
Yeah.
I still think it's possible. Like J.R. Smith had 20 points last night. Kevin Love had 30. LeBron had 20. He didn't have to carry the load. I think Dwayne Wade had 12, maybe 14 coming off the bench. They're starting to gel again. We'll see how it goes when we get Isaiah Thomas back, and I don't expect him to do a whole lot in terms of a defensive improvement, but if we're blowing teams out of the gym, then hopefully we don't need to play much defense.
Now we're gonna do something different.
Very different.
We're gonna Beaver wanted to address this, and I think it's a good idea. Beaver.
Do you want to bring Dante in for this?
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about the Columbus Crew, who are in the playoffs. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, and then we've got our special guest and former audience member Dante here to explain how the playoff format for the MLS works.
The way that a tournament structure works in a soccer competition is you play a two-legged fixture, and what that essentially boils down to is the winner of the aggregate score will move on. So you can lose a game, but as long as you have the highest goal differential, then you'll go on.
The Columbus Crew their future is a bit uncertain at the moment, and that is something that many of our fans, I think, and some of the older ones obviously can relate to, with the possibility of losing a team. The Columbus Crew's owner, Anthony Precourt, is considering moving the club to Austin, Texas, after the 2018 season, and that, I'm sure, it can be a bit scary for some of the Crew faithful, and they've made their presence known and shown how much they want their team to remain in its place. What can you say on that, Chris, about like what you've heard of what a team leaving a city can do?
Oh, it's awful. I mean, I can't imagine the Cavs leaving Cleveland ever. I mean, that'd just be terrible. Because kids grow up watching these people, these players, and look up to them, and suddenly they can't go to the games anymore, can't see them, and it's like it's a big deal. Even though soccer isn't that big of a sport in Columbus, where football kind of dominates it, it's definitely still important to the fans. I mean, Mike and I had the chance to go to a game earlier this year, and the fans were incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, they were cheering the entire game, and I mean, it's an hour and a half straight of cheering.
Yeah, and it's not something that you would see at like a typical NFL game. Like
Yeah.
even though you have 70,000 people at an NFL game, they're not making noise the entire game. Like people are there to like sit and watch quietly.
Yeah, like if people
Yeah,
That's not how it works.
Yeah, that's not how it works for soccer. And although the Precourt has made some comments about like how ticket sales have gone for the Columbus Crew. The Columbus Crew's stadium holds about 22,000 people, and their average attendance is 15,000. Where they had a game that would send them to the playoffs should they win. They had 11,000 in attendance. So obviously it was a very important game, and the Crew fans did not show out for it.